Just going for a little walk. I don't know if it'll be better with me doing it this way or this way. I think this way might be better because the sun won't hit me as bad. They'll be able to see me clear, but they should be able to hear me. I apologize for the wind. Kansas is windy as fuck, so can't really control that. But decided to take a little walk. Was just looking up stuff and just decided to walk, see, elaborate on some things, look into some things. There have been changes made to the DBQs, so a lot of people don't know that the DBQs can be filled out and submitted with their disability claim. The biggest issue being that some of them got removed. So that's one thing that people need to realize when it comes to these changes right now. Some of the DBQs have been removed, and that was because of the Veterans Benefits Act law that was passed a couple of months ago. So basically, the VA secretary now has the ability to remove or add DBQs. So the disability benefit questionnaires. What's up, Annette? How you doing today? So since that was put in place, there's been a bunch that have been removed. I noticed the main one I noticed when it came to the DBQs being removed was the hearing loss and tinnitus one. That was the main one that I noticed. There's a couple more when it comes to like traumatic brain injuries. Those got removed. And if you go onto the site, which I have it on the website, or if you go to the DBQ website or on the .gov site where it shows the listing of them, at the bottom now it actually explains all the DBQs that are being removed. Hearing loss, hearing and tinnitus being one of those. Traumatic brain injuries, the evaluations or the primary evaluations being removed from there also. So there's certain things that are being removed so that basically they are more clear for other people to see, but they're not allowing a public entity to do it. This goes into like that whole crackdown of dealing with like the VSOs and trying to help solidify the VSOs as the people to go through instead of using these outside entities and these outside organizations to get stuff. Because the thing is like I said, there's a bunch of fraud that has been conducted because of the fact that a lot of veterans are using these outside entities, and these outside entities are like, I wouldn't say they're falsifying documentation, but they're basically falsifying people's claims, which is causing it more issue than it is actually helping. Because you're getting a lot of these unaccredited companies are helping veterans file out their paperwork, but then they're having them file out paperwork that they're just creating, or their doctor just states that is factual and is not. So it makes it difficult for veterans because you got to go through the process of integrating that. The biggest thing is that we still haven't gotten any information as to the changes for tinnitus. Remember that the final action date for, apologize for the wind again. The final action date for tinnitus and for, what's the other one? So the final action date for tinnitus is being changed. The final action date is supposed to be April of this year. So basically in the next couple of weeks, we should be receiving information on what the changes are to tinnitus. But it's interesting that they changed the DBQs just now, right before the tinnitus claim and changes have been implemented. So it's basically, they're not going to allow people to submit any documentation that will go with tinnitus filing because they're planning to make changes to tinnitus also. Because remember, the supposed proposed changes that they're trying to do with tinnitus is that tinnitus isn't like a, I guess, compensable, you could say, issue. That it's more that it's like, oh, this is something that's tied to something else. So that what they're trying to do is because everybody uses tinnitus. Everybody can claim tinnitus. It's one of the easiest ones to claim. But the thing is a lot of people also use tinnitus as it's a good word for it. I would say as like a gateway to get secondary claims. So a lot of people start off with tinnitus and then they go from there and then they start attaching other things to it. So I think they're trying to do is that they're trying to eliminate that because that's something that's visible. That's something, like I said, if you go to all these different YouTube channels and these different guides on how to get to 100%, most of them will initiate and start talking to you to, hey, Make sure you have tinnitus, because then tinnitus can be a contributing factor and can be tied on to these other aspects. And that's the part that people don't understand and they ain't paying attention to. I was just like, these are the things that with people taking advantage of the system, the VA is catching on. And it's just like, okay, what are most people always claiming? Tinnitus. Everybody claims tinnitus. That is the main thing. It is one that is hard to argue because of the fact that, hey, you were shooting weapons, you were artillery, or you were a mechanic, or any of the sort. You can have an injury that causes you to have ringing in your ear. It's a constant flat line, or it comes and goes, and sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's not. But then a lot of veterans somehow developed all these other claims due to that, which there's no actual way of connecting it because there's no way of testing for tinnitus. So that's one of the things. Tinnitus is one of those that you can't really test for. You can't measure somebody's ear ringing. They know it happens, but there's no actual way to actually test that you have tinnitus. There's testing for hearing loss. So for hearing loss, it can be identified like, hey, you have hearing loss. But the thing is if they remove the DBQ being allowed for hearing loss to be used from an outside entity, now it makes it that, okay, you have to go to a CMP examination and you have to go through the audiology. You have to go through the, did I hear it or not button press? And that's one of the main things that people don't pay attention to. So that's one of the reasons why they're changing that. And the fact that it's no longer a DBQ is telling, because those are the changes that are going to come, especially with this changes to the VA entirely. I am working on a video that I asked ChatGPT what it thought. So I'm using that as a video, and I'm gonna make that video soon, just to basically say like, hey, this is the interaction I had with ChatGPT when I asked it to produce the pros and cons of it. The reason I did that was because right now, when you hear a lot of talk like me, I try to stay non-political about things, but sometimes it gets difficult to not notice those things that are political and are within the realm of being politics of these upcoming changes. I asked it about what the issues could be from going from 2025 VA levels to 2019 VA levels, or going or reverting back to it, like what it has. And then I actually asked it also for some alternatives to see like, hey, you know what? We always can come up with problems. Well, what are some possible solutions that we can do to actually fix this? None of the solutions actually said to keep some of them were like keeping the levels that we're at now, but just restructuring, or over time reducing the amount of employees we have. Not a full blown out just elimination like they're planning. So it's funny because the AI basically went ahead and actually broke it down. It gave me facts, it gave me numbers. I had to verify some of them were correct, some of them were wrong. But the whole gist of the measure was that basically, even though there is plan, like, yes, we do understand cutting benefits, but the thing is how it's being done, even AI doesn't agree with. And then I told it to take a neutral stance on it and just explain what it received and what it got. And it gave me answers, and it's just like, it makes sense. Like, I do understand there has to be attrition. But the thing is even the VA had already recognized that they were planning to reduce the hirings and reduce the number of workers, because they were using it more as like a seasonal thing. So all these people that have been hired right now was due to the PACT Act. What they were expecting was by the end of next year, they were expecting a lot of those PACT Act claims to like fall off, because the fact is that most people started implementing and started claiming their PACT Act issues these past 2 years, because the first year, most people didn't really know what the PACT Act was. Most people didn't realize that was available to them. This past year, 2024, a lot of people took advantage of it because now they knew what they could file for. They had a better understanding of what the PACT Act was. So they decided to use that to their benefit, and that's what they've been using. So the plan was basically by the end of 2026 to not have that many people working on these claims and stuff like that, because of the fact that they knew it would fall off. The number would lessen because of the fact that there's not as many people filing anymore. So a lot of these people got hired these past 2 years because of the fact that the PACT Act had such a stranglehold on the VA that it caused them to not be able to fulfill or take care of the backlog, which has grown as crazy as it has. And even when looking at the numbers, it showed that the backlog was only like about, I think it was like about 74,000 in 2019. And people would be like, oh, that's great. It's grown up to, I think it was like 250 something thousand right now, the backlog that we have of people filing their claims and stuff like that and them being processed. And people will be like, oh, it's because the VA has gotten worse and the VA has gotten terrible. And then it's like, no, it was just like, we just had such an influx of new claims. We had an influx of over 2 million new claims that came in because of the PACT Act. Before the PACT Act, we had that low numbers, but we didn't have the people processing it, and we still had a backlog. So it shows that it wasn't the amount of people. It was just like, well, it shows that it was the amount of people because we didn't have enough people to process those that we were still in the backlog in 2019. Now with all these other people now making these claims and applying for benefits, it only slows down the procedures right now. So now the backlog may increase even more, or the backlog is going to be delayed by more time, which is funny because like I said, even the AI explained that to me. Like it went into an in-depth thing and it gave me numbers and it did the explanation and it made sense. I was just like, the reason we have such a backlog now is because we have so many more new claims. We used to be in 2019, there was only about 6 million veterans using the VA healthcare. Now, when you look at it, we passed 8.8 million. So we're past 8 million veterans now using the healthcare. We were sitting at 6 million. You just added another 2 million people that are now using the VA healthcare. And a lot of those were veterans that already had issues. They just couldn't clarify them. They just couldn't define them. They just couldn't put it into work because it wasn't covered. So a lot of these things that a lot of veterans are dealing with is ailments that they've had. They've had them for years, but you couldn't really file for it because you couldn't connect it to your time in service. So that was one of the bigger issues there. And a lot of people don't understand that. So they just think it's just like a bloating of the government, that you have too many people working there, but that's not the actual case. The fact that so many people are now filing for disabilities that they can actually tie to their time in service is what's causing this backlog. But people don't look at it that way. People just say the VA is bad, they're doing a bad job. It's just like, no. You can tell because there was an OIG inspection. So the Office of the Inspector General did a report, or basically they researched to see, okay, what is going on? Like, what's the issues? One of the main issues that they found within the report was that a lot of veterans do not have, well, a lot of VAs don't have the staffing that they need. So that was off of a Inspector General report that they basically published, showing and highlighting the fact that throughout the VA facilities and stuff like that, there's less and less facilities that are actually fully staffed. Most of these places are missing out on nurses, missing out on surgeons, missing out on all this stuff. So that amplifies the fact that most people can't get care. You can't have care if you don't have the doctors to take care of you. Can't have care if you don't have nurses being able to look after you either. So that report alone in 2024 said that most of the VAs are understaffed when it comes to critical positions. Now, maybe that's the 300,000 supposed critical positions that the VA Secretary Doug Collins is saying that those are the ones they're trying to hire. But at the same time, you're still deducting people from the people processing it. Now, like I said, if it's something like, hey, the VA is contracting like seasonal workers, you know how they have like when you do like market, like any kind of sales or something like that. Oh, we're having seasonal or temporary jobs. Now, if you do something like that, that makes sense, because then you have people that are temporarily working on these things to help alleviate the backlog, and then you can remove them. But if you're hiring all these people to then cut them and the problem is still existing, the problem isn't going to go away. Because lately I've been seeing a lot more people posting about, oh, I got my claims done, I got this done. It's like they're trying to clear the stuff out. You know why? Because once these changes come into tinnitus, once these changes come into sleep apnea, once these changes come into mental health, it's all going to be different. Filing for disability claims, golly, this one is crazy. Filing for disability claims is not going to be the same issue. It's going to be entirely different when you don't have tinnitus as a main thing, when you don't have sleep apnea rated the same way, and when you don't have mental health rated the same way. So I think that's what they're trying to do right now, is they're trying to push whatever they can through. They could have cut these illegal companies out, stop ordering CMPs. Or something. Oh, trust me, Annette. That's part of the stuff that they're talking about doing too, though, because that's when it comes to those contracts of those CMP examiners that just weren't worth a damn. The problem we have is that these things aren't being evaluated properly. That's the biggest issue we have. Nothing is being evaluated properly. Damn, fucking Kansas win, man. Need some more buildings out here. It's just like a lot of those contracts, they're just cutting contracts and things across the board, and they're not actually sitting down and actually processing the stuff or thinking about the stuff that's going on. Because the thing is you can evaluate these people. You can evaluate those CMP examiners, see, hey, you know what, this isn't working, or hey, this isn't doing well. This CMP examiner is getting bad ratings and stuff like that, but they didn't do that. They just started cutting contracts all over the place. So it's like you don't know really what they're cutting or who they're cutting, because they could have cut somebody that was actually doing a great job and they kept somebody that was doing a bad job. We don't know, because there's no evaluation process to that. So that's the biggest thing. But with these changes, it's like, hey, once they start minimizing the DBQs you got, it's because they don't want these outside entities to do that. Because one of the main reasons I could tell you, they're not going to say it, but definitely hearing loss and tinnitus definitely is going to be lost out on outside, because the thing is they want to evaluate you. They want to evaluate your hearing, because the thing is that's one thing that a lot of these, like I said, a lot of these YouTube creators that they have, you know, their own medical doctors and stuff like that, that's the route they go. Because they know once you get tinnitus, they know they can build up on a case and take time after time to try to build up for somebody to get something. So if you're filing a case of tinnitus that connected to sleep apnea or connected to migraines, and then migraines connected to insomnia, and then the insomnia caused whatever, there's like, that's how the process takes longer. Because the thing is they're trying to connect all these things. So the VA recognized that. A lot of these entities recognize that. That's why the VSOs probably are saying that, hey, we need more funding and we need more stuff to go through us. Because a lot of these some vets are just using the system. And I can't even argue with that, because some vets are just straight up using the system. They're playing the game and they're using the game for what it is, and now the VA is catching up and they're going to get rid of those loopholes. But it's just going to be difficult for veterans coming after to do that. So right now, the best thing is to try to make sure they can take care of themselves now. Man, this one is crazy. The best thing is to try to take care of yourself now while you still can. Because a lot of these changes are going to come, and there's no changing them at this point. It would have to take having a whole new secretary or a whole new thing to change it. So all these initial DBQs that are being submitted are going to be changed. And it's just like people are not just going to have the ability to produce stuff and produce information, which is, I think, the thing that they're trying to go after. They're trying to make it that certain things you just cannot produce on your own. Because the thing is like you said, some people get evaluated, some people don't. Some people have CMP exams, some people don't. For certain things, you don't need CMP exams. Like that conversation I had before with sleep apnea. Sleep apnea isn't something that you have to worry about getting a compensation and pension exam, because your study says that. Your study explains that you have sleep apnea. What they want to know is it service connected, and how is it service connected? And that's the more important part. But you can have a DBQ for it. It's not going to build your case any stronger if you can't prove that it was service connected. And that's the thing now, that they're also trying to, like I said, most people don't want to pay attention or read what 2025 said, Project 2025, but they're not trying to pay people for secondary claims. There's been a bunch of people I've seen that have started getting reevaluated. They're just reevaluating people. And then it goes to show that some people just don't look at their paperwork. Because the thing is you have to look at your C file in order to understand. Like I posted that little did you know on Wednesday. You have to look at your C file to see what's static and what's not. Because the thing is, if it's static, it means they know you're not going to get any better. If it isn't static, that means that there's chance for improvement. So that means if the VA decided to, they can go and check your file. There's nothing that says they can't. Man, that's the thing. Most people just think it's like, hey, I'm 100% PNT. They're not going to touch me. They don't have to. There's nothing that says that they can't do it. There's no regulation, nowhere in the CFR, no kind of regulation or no standard or anything that says you cannot be evaluated at 100% PNT. There's nowhere that it says that. They just choose to not reevaluate you because of the fact that they understand, hey, we know this person is static. We know that this issue is going to progress and get worse over time. So we don't have to reevaluate them. That doesn't mean everything on your list is getting better. And that's the one thing that people need to understand. It's just like, this is happening, but people aren't understanding it. People ain't paying attention. Shit, I was on TikTok earlier talking about that, just some of the fucking executive orders and stuff that have been passed. And most people just aren't paying attention to what's going on. Most people ain't probably aware right now of the fact that some of these DBQs got removed from the ability of being used. That makes it that you have to go through the VA to get stuff provided and approved. Now, like I said, if you have to go through the VA to get hearing done, that means you still have to make an appointment. You still have to go through the process. And if you got less people doing the work processing and you got less people actually checking you and being able to check you, that just delays the process. But then again, it also infuriates veterans, because the thing is they decide, you know what? I don't want to deal with this nonsense because I've been dealing with it this whole damn time. So those are the things that people don't tend to realize at times. Those are things that just like populate, that don't populate for everybody because they're not looking at it in that manner. It was just like stuff being cut, contracts being cut. We don't know what's being cut. We don't know what's being put forth. It was just like they want to modernize everything, because the thing is they want to start including more AI. And that's the one thing that people don't understand yet, I think, and people ain't putting that together. And that's one thing that I like to do. I like to put shit together because I don't take it at face value. Face value, it sounds like, hey, we're gonna save money by doing it, but how are you still gonna stay efficient if you're cutting out people? Well, if you're building up the AI, that means that the AI is gonna have more influence on these things. So maybe it does work faster where AI is just basically looking at your claim and it's identifying stuff. The thing is how correct is that going to be? How well is the AI going to be trained to be able to read a disability claim? Is it going to look for keywords? Is it going to factor certain things? Because then you still need somebody to evaluate it, to interpret what is being found. The same way it's being done with the CMP examiner to the VA rater. That has to be interpreted. They have to figure out, okay, this is what's going on. This is the information, how valid it is. This is how they're using it. AI is going to take over and they're going to start processing stuff like that. So hopefully, hey, maybe it does work and it does work faster. And in terms of, because they're using artificial intelligence to actually speed up the process. But at the same time, like I said, me using ChatGPT to ask it how it felt about it in a neutral manner and give me a neutral answer, it still provided me with wrong numbers. Some numbers were actually correct, and I was surprised with the info it got me, but then other times it was wrong, and you have to look in a bit better to find the actual position that it was taking and what it was talking about. But that's the thing with all these upcoming changes, is like veterans just need to be better aware and pay attention to these things, because these changes are going to affect people regardless. They may think it's not going to. I was like, that's just being naive. It's not going to affect you if you're already at 100% because you ain't filing another disability claim. But for those veterans that are still trying to get to 100% or are trying to get their benefits, because like I tell people, not everybody's supposed to be at 100%. Not everybody gets to 100%. Not everything was caused by the military. Some things were. A lot of things were for people. But people need to understand that not everything gets you to 100%. I was like, understanding that is a big difference because veterans just think it's just like, oh, they're going to get 100% just because it's 100%. I was like, not everybody deserves to be at 100%. Not everybody can prove that they're at 100%. And I think that's a bigger thing also. Not everybody can highlight and have the documentation and the explanation like, oh, I have all these things that happened in service and do it. And then it makes it even tougher for older generation vets that is just like, they don't have the documentation. They don't have the paperwork. It didn't exist. They didn't have a digital database that can fucking filter out all this stuff. Those are the difference now. It's just like now it's available, but now it's going to be even tougher for veterans to actually be successful in their claims. So it's like people need to start taking advantage of what's here now. So if you file now and it's there, it's taken care of. Like I said, there's a lot of veterans that are getting this stuff processed and they're getting it through because they're going to push it through. And then it's just going to be like, hey, we've closed out your case. Because remember, if you do an intent to file and it's a year old, but then you add to it, it's still going to be a year old. It's not going to be, they're not going to restart it unless you start the same claim over again, which you should never do. But that's the thing that people don't understand. It's just like those numbers are going to take into effect. So the more people they can process and give them a disability claim now, that means that if they have to file, they have to file again. So basically come April 1st, I would say the next couple of weeks, you're going to have an influx of veterans that are going to be like, oh, I got my disability rating. I got this thing there. Because once they start with the whole sleep apnea change and the tinnitus change, that's going to change the way a lot of people file. It's going to change a lot of people's ability to get higher ratings because they're using the secondary clause to get that rating. Because a lot of those secondary stuff is just like, they spoke on this already. They already said it. It's like, we are not trying to pay veterans for stuff that they didn't do. Like, I can't, if you file a disability claim, you're going to file it. But if it wasn't caused by the military, they're not trying to compensate it. They're trying to eliminate that whole secondary thing because of the fact that they're basically trying to make it that it's just like, hey, if you are filing for a disability claim, you're filing it because the military caused it or your time in service. They don't want to pay off for secondaries because the thing is if they start paying off for secondaries or if they stop paying off for secondaries, you'll see the drastic number of disability claims that are not filed anymore. So they understand that because I can tell you right now, most of the claims that most people make are secondary claims to their primary service-connected issue. Since it's service-connected, they use that and then they go secondary. But if we remove the secondary aspect of a lot of these ailments, a lot of veterans don't get close to 100% by that. A lot of veterans will struggle to get any information to show like, hey, this was caused by this. And if they just tell you, oh, well, the military didn't do that, we're not going to cover it. Well, hey, we'll take care of it. But at the same time, if it's not service connected, they're not going to take care of it either. And that's one of the big things is just like, so that's going to put a whole lot of veterans in a bind right now. Because let's say you did have tinnitus and it did cause migraines. Well, the military didn't cause you the migraines. Tinnitus did. So now migraines isn't covered. It's not service connected. So you're not going to get medication for it without having to pay for it. Now you're going to have to go through your actual private insurance or get private insurance to actually do it. It was just like, and I saw a video which sucked to see, but there was like, it's cheaper to fucking bury a veteran than it is to actually take care of them. And it's just like, it shows because all the stuff that's being done, all that documentation, all that stuff is changing because of that. You show those instances where veterans are trying to be taken care of or they're fighting for, but then resources are going down. There was another video I seen of a veteran and their wife, just like he was just arguing and screaming at the fact that they were removing some of the benefits he had. Like he needs mental health, and that's one of the things that they're removing or they're cutting back on. So those are the things that affect veterans in a multitude of ways, but that's something that people don't elaborate on and don't see enough of, which causes the bigger issue. I was just like, not having DBQs for certain things is a big drawback. Not being able to file those claims, not being able to do these things is going to be a difficult thing for people to be able to manage their care, manage their disability claims. And just like that's the thing, that's the first part of it. Like, and that's the thing. These people aren't doing everything in one shot. They're doing it methodically, which doesn't mean it's being done in the right way, but they're doing it in a slow manner where people aren't paying attention to it and not caring because you get told one thing and then something else pops up. So that's one thing that is just like just bringing awareness to the fact that, hey, some DBQs have been removed and the list is at the bottom of the DBQ page on va.gov so that people can understand like, hey, these things are no longer able to be used as a disability benefit questionnaire. Now, are they going to continue to cut stuff? Possibly, because if they keep finding things that people are using that they want to be verified through the VA, that's one thing. Because you got to remember, if you got a fully developed claim, chances are you don't need a CMP exam. You don't need the documentation. But at the same time, DBQs are one of the main things that helps veterans when it comes to filing their disability claim, because it gives them that list of the different items that a veteran can use within that DBQ. So just because you got diagnosed with one thing, you fill out a DBQ, you can see that on that DBQ, there's a listing of different ailments that you can claim. And those are the things that you could add on to your stuff. But most people don't do that, and most people aren't aware of it because they don't even know that the DBQs exist. So that's always the thing. But now it's just paying attention and people being sure that when they are filing their disability claims, that they do not fall under that list that is not usable, because all you're going to be doing is delaying your process. Because the thing is you're going to submit that paperwork, you're going to file it, you're going to go through the steps, and then at some point it's going to get kicked back and they're going to be like, hey, the information you sent or the document you sent is no longer valid. There was a veteran that messaged me and he was just like, oh, I got a letter saying that what was it, that I had to resubmit my paperwork because my attorney's ability to file was like revoked or something. Mind you, he didn't even use it properly, or the VA didn't use it properly, but they made it seem that way. There's a lot of instances of stuff that is just like not there, but I went on a little walk and wanted to just talk on the DBQs because I just want people to understand that those are things that are out in the open that people can use, but they have eliminated those that people were there. Some of the crazy thing about it is that some of those weren't even on the page. So when you first look at the page, because I have a lot of the stuff that's on the website, I have all the DBQs on there. So I went to verify to see if anything got added or removed that I had on the page so I can edit the page. But none of those were on my page previously, and I went off of the page there. So it's interesting that they are removing certain DBQs, but they never posted them. So it leads me to believe that there may be more DBQs out there. They're just not using them because people don't want them to use them, because the ones that they're being eliminated are ones that were not in the system in the first place. So that's why I just find it interesting that they're removing that. But hearing loss and tinnitus is one thing that got added on there, and that's one of the glaring and biggest ones. But like I said, that's something that we should have an answer to, or there should be an action date as to when that tinnitus change is going to happen. What is it? I still don't know. I don't speculate. I'm waiting for an effective date and something to be published by the VA, because the VA is going to end up publishing, hey, this is what we expect. This is what's going to happen. This is when it goes into effect. When the VA does that for tinnitus, sleep apnea, and the mental health ratings, then from there, that's when people will know exactly when the VA is going to implement these changes. Till then, yeah, what you don't know, you don't know. And it's hard to get people to understand that, because it's like everybody's worried, and there's like too much fear mongering between other people in their channels, and just saying, oh, we've been going through this change for years. We've been talking about changes for years, and now is when they're saying it's going to happen, but then they delayed mental health. So, like I said, if you have the ability to claim now and file through your claims and get it done now, do it now. There's no point in waiting. Yes, and that's the other thing. Things are changing quickly. Like this thing with the DBQs. I didn't know. I just want to check because I go through my website and I like to check to make sure that the stuff is up to date. And I went and I checked the DBQ page, and then I saw that they added that bottom part of it. And it was just like, oh, these DBQs are no longer available for use. And I was just like, that wasn't there before. I went and I checked it and I looked at them. I was just like, okay, this is something that just like need to just make sure people are aware of and paying attention to, because most people won't know shit. If I didn't check the website, there's nothing that says they did that. And that's the biggest problem. It's just like nobody's aware of it because there's nothing publicizing that, hey, these got removed. So that's something that people need to make sure to do. Check the website, go to the DBQ list, check what got removed. Because hey, if you were planning to file a disability, if you were filing a disability claim and you didn't check that, you just basically wasting time, because now that shit is not going to be useful in the first place. So that's why it's like, hey, people need to make sure that they're aware about it. Oh, it's definitely not about politics. Oh, my damn door. Hold on. It's not about politics. It's just people understanding that and knowing, like, hey, this isn't changing, but things are changing quick. Numbers are changing quick. Policies are changing quick. And it's just like, if you're not aware, you're not going to know. Like I said, I haven't been able to find, I looked for places to say where it was notified that this change happened. It didn't. There was nothing that was said in there. So that's why it's like paying attention, because these changes are going to happen. And if you ain't aware, they're just going to pass them right by you. You're going to get stuff that changes and you're not going to have a clue as to why it's changing, how it happened, when it happened. You're just going to find out after the fact that you ended up losing the ability to use a certain DBQ. But that's all. That's all I wanted to talk about. I just went for my walk. I don't think I can walk any further. But that's all. I'll just want to leave it at that. I just want to make a go live and just talk about that real quick, so if people tune in and just find out, like, hey, check out the DBQ list, because a lot of the DBQs are no longer. I wouldn't say a lot of them, because most of them are still there, but those DBQs were added to a list that cannot be used. So make sure that veterans are aware that you cannot use those DBQs, and then from there it'll go. I'll probably just sit down and make a little quick video or something on that right now and just publish that real quick. But and then, as always, thank you for tuning in. If anything, see you Sunday. I'll try to see if I go live again tomorrow at some point, maybe mid afternoon if I'm able to. I'll do that. I just got homework I got to knock out, so we'll see how that is. But as always, Annette, I appreciate you. Thanks. Have a good rest of your weekend. And if anything, I'll see you Sunday, or I'll be back on Sunday. Peace.